Hey guys, Luke here on Sean's channel. Today I'm going to be bringing you a combo guide / test hand video, and the deck we'll be showcased today is Spright. I'm a big fan of Spright. Spright is very much a combo deck, but it can be very good at taking control of the field. It can set up a board full of negates, and I also found a cool way to OTK with the deck as well. So the deck is just very versatile. Be sure to check out the last deck profile I did on Spright in order to know what kind of the card list that we're dealing with right here. But if you want a little slightly more budget friendly version, you can check out the one I did a couple months ago, which is more budget friendly, but it won't be as accurate to the deck that we're showcasing now today. I'm going to be showing you guys basically the one card combos you're able to use in Spright in order to set up some massive boards. I'll show you a way that you're able to deal 10,000 damage to your opponent, and also if you have time at the end, I'm going to do a couple test hands. So without further ado, let's zoom out and then we're going to do the first one card combo with Spright. Now the best starter in the deck is Nimble Beaver. I think that this card is just absolutely essential to run a 3 copy, so you definitely want to run it at maximum, just because not only is this a great starter, but you also need him to further your combos. So those of you who don't know, Nimble Beaver is a level 2 monster that has the effect that when this card is normal summoned, you can special summon the level 3 or lower Nimble monster from your deck to the graveyard. The Nimble monsters we run in this deck are Nimble Beaver and Nimble Angler. And it's very important that you run Nimble Beaver at 3 copies and Nimble Angler at 2 copies. And now I'm going to show you why. So one card combo with Spright, you want to normal summon Nimble Beaver and then you're going to trigger his effect. Then what you're going to do is you're going to special summon out a copy of Nimble Angler. It's very important that you go for Nimble Angler here, and it's absolutely legal to do so. I don't recommend you go with your with another Nimble Beaver, because Nimble Angler has the effect that if this card is sent from hand or deck to the graveyard, you can special summon up to 2 level 3 or lower Nimble monsters from your deck except Angler. So if we're able to when we get Angler's effect to pop off, it's good to have 2 other Nimble Beavers in the deck that we're able to bring out. What we're going to do from here is we're going to link away these 2 to go into a copy of Spright Sprint. Now don't be fooled, Angler doesn't get its effect to pop off here because it was sent from field for a link summon, so nothing's going to happen in the graveyard. Sprint effect is what's going to happen next. So since Sprint was special summoned, what we're able to do is activate the effect to send a level 2 monster from our deck to the graveyard. And that's why it is very essential to run 2 copies of the Nimble Angler, because we are going to use the Sprint effect in order to dump our second copy of Nimble Angler and get into the graveyard. And since Nimble Angler was sent from deck to graveyard by a card effect, we're able to activate that Nimble Angler, and Nimble Angler we're able to special summon 2 Nimble monsters from deck except for Angler. So that of course is going to be the final 2 copies of the Nimble Beaver that we run in the deck. So you're able to get out 2 of them onto the field. So now off of 1 card you had your Sprint pop off, and then you get 2 more bodies out in the field. From here, the next step that you want to do, I always want to go for a Gigantic Spright using these 2. So you XZ summon using both your Nimble Beavers into Gigantic Spright. I fully recommend that you summon Gigantic Spright in defense mode. Reason for that is we're mostly going into a combo right here, is if we're on the indication that we're going first. So that means our opponent is going second, and if they're running board breakers like Lightning Storm destroys all attack position monsters that we control, so it's good to have a few monsters in defense position, just so our whole board isn't completely wiped out. This right here is the board state that we can combo off into a few different ways after the fact. So from here, we're just going to mark this is the end of combo 1. We're going to go into combo 1.1 now, and by this I mean we still have that 1 card combo of Nimble Beaver to go off, and we still end up with this board right here. So combo 1.1 starts right now. We're going to activate our Gigantic Spright, and we are going to use this effect to detach a material and then special summon a level 2 monster from our deck. One thing I have to say is that since Gigantic Spright, it doesn't detach for cost, what this deck is very weak to is a copy of Ghost Ogre. So if your opponent Ghost Ogre's Gigantic Spright and Gigantic Spright goes to the graveyard, his effect still doesn't pop off just because he doesn't detach for cost. So that's why I'm just giving you a quick tip here. You want to run a copy or a few copies of Crossout Designator and a few copies of Ghost Ogre, just because we really don't want to get interrupted at this point in the game. So that's just a quick tip tip, we're going to continue on with the combo, activate Gigantic Spright, make sure it's okay with our opponent, and if it is, we're going to detach one of those Nimble Beavers in order to special summon a level 2 monster. There's a few different routes that you can take, but for combo 1.1, the card I recommend you go for is definitely Swap Frog. So Swap Frog comes out and hits the field. When Swap Frog is summoned, what you're able to do is that you're able to send one level 2 or lower Aqua type water monster from your deck to the graveyard. So with Swap Frog's effect, what we're able to do is we are able to dump our copy of Mirror Mage of the Ice Barrier, who of course is a level 2 Aqua water monster. So she goes directly from deck to the graveyard. And since she hit the graveyard, what you're able to do is activate her effect to add an Ice Barrier card from your deck to your hand. So this is a very, very small Ice Barrier package we run. Mage and also Freezing Chains of the Ice Barrier along with the 3 copies of Swap Frog. So you're adding Freezing Chains of the Ice Barrier from your deck to your hand. Then what you're able to do is you're able to activate Freezing Chains of the Ice Barrier, and when this card is activated you can target one level 4 or lower Ice Barrier monster in your graveyard and special summon it, which of course is the Mirror Mage. So she's able to come right out off of the Freezing Chains. And then we have 2 level 2 Aqua monsters that we're able to AA-ZEUS into Toadally Awesome. So this concludes combo 1.1. The reason why I find this to be a very, very good combo is because with this alone off of the 1 card of Nimble Beaver, you're able to get an interruption with Sprint and Toadally Awesome. Toadally Awesome is an Omni Negate and Sprint is a bounce. So while Sprint's face up on the field, if your opponent special summons a monster, or even if you special summon a monster for that matter, what you're able to do with Sprint is detach 1 material from an AA-ZEUS monster you control, which as you can see you have 2 AA-ZEUS monsters so you can detach from either of them, and then you can bounce that special summon card back to the hand. Toad works a little differently because it's an Omni Negate. If your opponent activates a spell / trap card or a monster effect, you're able to send 1 Aqua monster from your hand or face on the field to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, you can then set that card from your opponent's graveyard to your field. Great thing about this is that Toad can actually send itself to the graveyard in order to negate that, but during the standby phase, Toad has the effect that you can actually detach a material and special summon a frog from your deck. So what you're able to do is during your opponent's standby phase, detach a material, then get another Swap Frog onto the field, which will be really, really great if we were living in a time where Ronin Totem was still legal, because what we're able to do off of that is then we can bring out a Swap Frog. Swap Frog effect would dump Ronin Totem and give us good setup for the following turn. But for right now, this is still very, very strong because Toadally Awesome is able to get rid of itself or the Swap Frog on the field for that Omni Negate. But that's not only good for that, but Toad has the effect that if it's sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 water monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So that's fantastic because that means Toad can pretty much just recycle itself. But most of the time you're going to go with one of your other water monsters, such as your Swap Frog in the graveyard, just recycle back in your hand because you want to have a level 2 that you're able to normal summon and then get a bunch of your sprites to special summon with their inherit summons off of that effect. So that concludes combo 1.1. Now let's go into combo 1.2. So you still had your Beaver go off and you're still ending with this. You're in this position right here. As you can see, I reset and have the 2 Nimble Beavers attached to Gigantic Spright. So as I said earlier, make sure that your opponent doesn't have Ghost Ogre in their hand, and you're going to activate Spright and make sure that it goes off. So if it does, that means that you're able to detach a material and then you're able to special summon a level 2 monster. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with Spright Blue. So if we're able to special summon Spright Blue gets the effect that if this card is special summoned, you can add 1 Spright monster from your deck to your hand. So the main target I always like to go for off of this is I want to go for a copy of Spright Jet. And then we're able to add Spright Jet to our hand. Now with pretty much all the Spright monsters, they have an inherit summon effect that if you control a level or a rank 2 monster, you're able to special summon the card from the hand. So since we already have Spright Blue and Gigantic Spright onto the field, we're able to special summon Spright Jet. And he gets an effect when he's special summoned, you can add 1 Spright spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Now this is very, very good because we actually have 4 different targets for this. The 4 targets are as follows: Spright Double Cross, Spright Smashers, Spright Gamma Burst, and Spright Starter. So since we're in a position where this was a 1 card combo off of Nimble Beaver, it's safe to assume that we didn't use Starter yet. So if we go with Starter, that's a good way to extend our plays a little bit. We're able to activate Starter to bring out one of our other Spright monsters, such as our Spright Red or Spright Carrot, which either one of those, depending on what you pick, can be a spell negate or a monster negate. If we were going second, however, we would pick Gamma Burst, just because Gamma Burst is a good way to go for an OTK. It basically makes all level, rank, or link 2 monsters you currently have on the field gain 1400 attack and defense until the end of this turn. Spright Smashers is good because it's able to banish a card on the field for the cost of us banishing 2 of our materials, which can be quite costly, but if it's a way to out a problematic monster, it can be quite good as well. And Spright Double Cross is a good sort of back row disruption. They're able to take your opponent's monsters and either use them as XYZ material or just bring it to a position on your board where a link monster is pointing to. So my advice for whenever you're picking is always going to be this: if you want to extend, go with Starter. If you want to go in for attacks, go with Gamma Burst. If you want to out problematic monsters, go with Smashers. And if you want some good disruption, go with Double Cross. I'm still going under the assumption that we are going first. So I think that Spright Double Cross is a good target to go for. These cards are all very good, but I'm going to show you guys an OTK combo after with Gamma Burst, and I'm going to show you how you can use 1-card combos with Starter a little bit later. So what I personally like to go for is the Spright Double Cross. So we're going to claim that we're going to go for this one. Now from here, the combo can yet again split into 2 different ways. What you can do with this is you can say, for example, this is combo 1.21. What you're able to do is that you're able to XYZ these 2. Since they are both level 2 Dharc monsters, what you're able to go for is a copy of number 65, Djinn Buster. Now Djinn can be very good because this is a monster negate. So we already have a bounce with Sprint, and we have a monster negate with Djinn Buster, and then Spright Double Cross can be very good as well. With Sprint's effect, you're always going to be detaching from Gigantic Spright in order to get that bounce, which can be good, but then it means when you're going into your next turn, Gigantic Spright is just a body on the field. You don't really have a way to activate his effect unless you have the Spright Double Cross. Because Spright Double Cross, you're able to take one of your opponent's monsters and attach it to Gigantic Spright, which I find to be very good. And Djinn, unfortunately, you need to attach 2 materials in order to negate the activation of what your opponent's just done. So I find this to be a very good position, just because if we went with the Double Cross, it kind of has good synergy with what we want to do. Sprint is able to detach from Gigantic in order to get that bounce, but we can load up Gigantic again by activating Double Cross to take one of our opponent's monsters as material. And Djinn, you need to detach 2 to negate the effect, so he's just left as a body after you have that effect negation. It's still quite good, but another option you can go for, and we'll call this combo 1.22, is that you're able to link these 2 into IP Masquerena, which is respectable. It is a good interruption, but you have to be very careful with what you're doing. You want to make sure that you're timing your negates perfectly. You want to have Sprint go off before you go with your IP Masquerena, so you need to be very careful. If we didn't go for Double Cross and we instead went with Starter to bring out a few other monsters, then IP Masquerena would have been a safe option for this instance. But considering we didn't do that and we went with the Double Cross, what Djinn might be a little bit better, or even if you want to go straight into your SP Little Knight, that is also fine as well. It just really depends on your situation. Be sure that you're reading the board. You gotta make sure you know what your opponent's gonna activate and in what order, so you can make your moves as effectively as possible. I personally prefer going for the Toadally Awesome if we're in the position, again, if we have just Gigantic and Spright Sprint out on the field. I like going for Toad in that situation, but those are just a few other ways that the combo can kind of branch out into other end boards. So that basically concludes the first full combo and all the different directions that you can take it. Let's say you don't get lucky and you don't open the copy of Nimble Beaver. We can still get that board out, no problem at all, with just a 1-card of Spright Starter. Starter is another great starter. It's literally in the name. They're able to pop off really well with Spright. So I'm going to show you the combo 2 now, just using Spright Starter. So what we're going to do is we're going to activate Spright Starter, and what that's going to allow us to special summon a Spright monster from our deck to the field, and then we take damage to our life points equal to the amount of attack that that monster has. So we're going with Spright Blue. So after Blue hits the field, we're going to take 1,100 life points of damage. That's going to trigger Blue's effect. Since he's special summoned, we're able to add a Spright monster from our deck to our hand. So just like before, what I always say is with Blue, you always kind of want to go with your Spright Jet then after that. just because Jet allows us to kind of extend the combos even more. And it's very important if we're going down this route. So since we control a level 2 monster, we can use Jet's Inherit Summon to special summon him right out. And we're going to activate Jet in order to add a Spright spell or trap from our deck to our hand. I'm going to add my personal favorite card, which is the trapped Spright Double Cross. But if you want to add one of the other ones, go ahead. I'll be showing you the OTK combo after this one, but let's just go on the illusion that we are going first. I think Double Cross is just a better interruption that we want to go for. So Double Cross comes to our hand. I'll leave it there in the spell and trap card zone for the time being, just say it's face down though. Then from here what we're able to do is we are actually able to link these two off in order to go into a copy of Sprint. And you guys already know what Sprint does. When he hits the field, we're able to dump a level 2. So what we're able to do with that is we are able to dump the level 2 Nimble Angler from deck to the graveyard, and since that happens, Angler is able to pop off its effect to special summon 2 Nimble monsters. So we're going to go with the 2 copies of Nimble Beaver. From here it's pretty much just the same stuff. Again, as I showed you earlier in the other combo, we're going to XYZ those 2 into Gigantic Spright. We're going to activate Gigantic's effect, make sure we don't get interrupted, so then we can detach a material in order to go for a level 2. Since we already got Blue and Jet's effect to go off of Starter, I definitely recommend you going with Swap Frog then from there. Swap Frog effect to dump the Mirror Mage effect, get your Freezing Chains, activate Freezing Chains, get that Mirror Mage out, XYZ these 2 into your Toad. That is definitely what I recommend, but if you don't want to go down that route, you're able to just go with Gigantic's effect, pop off to go into your red, and then you have a monster negate onto the field. It's good if you want to go with this, that's fine. It's a way to get your monster negate quicker, but I just find that Toadally Awesome is just a better card, especially when we're pairing it with Spright Double Cross. It's just better than going easy and just bringing out the red. Now let's do the combo that gets 10,000 damage onto the field. All you need is Spright Starter, and it's very similar to most of the other combos. You're going to activate Spright Starter, and then you are going to go for your copy of Spright Blue. You're going to then inflict 1,100 damage to yourself because that's how much attack Blue has. You're going to trigger Blue's effect. You are going to add a copy of Spright Jet from your deck to your hand. And just like before, Inherit Summon Spright Jet. We are going to then, instead of picking up the Double Cross, we want the OTK enabler itself of Spright Gamma Burst. So we're going to add that card from our deck to our hand. Make sure you hold it in your hand for a while. We're only going to activate it during the battle phase. From here, just like before, we are going to link these 2 off in order to go into a copy of Sprint. I know this all looks familiar, but this is a good way to go for 10,000 damage. Sprint effect, we are going to dump the copy of Angler. Angler effect then pops off. We're going to get 2 copies of Beaver out onto the field. Now, this may look familiar, but here's where the combo actually changes. We are going to use Spright Sprint and Nimble Beaver for an XYZ summon of Gigantic Spright. For those of you who don't know, Gigantic Spright has the effect that for this card's XYZ summon, you can treat a Link 2 monster you control as a level 2 monster. So we're able to use Sprint and 1 copy of Beaver to go into Gigantic Spright. And not only that, Gigantic Spright also has the effect that the original attack of this card that has a Fusion, Synchro, XYZ, or Link Monsters material becomes doubled. So already we have Gigantic Spright up to 3,200 attack. What we do from here then is we're going to activate Gigantic Spright, make sure it pops off, and make sure you detach the Beaver. You want to keep that Link monster attached to Gigantic Spright to make sure he keeps that attack boost. So we are going to get rid of Beaver, and we are going to go for the familiar play of bringing out Swap Frog. Swap Frog effect, we're going to dump the Mirror Mage. Mirror Mage effect, we're going to get the Freezing Chains. We're going to activate the Freezing Chains. We are going to bring out the Mirror Mage, and we are going to XYZ summon for Toadally Awesome. This may not look like a threatening board, but we have 10,000 attack damage on the field right here. So depending on what your opponent's board looks like, you might have game right here, right now. Let's do the maths. So say we're going into battle phase. what we're able to do is we're going to attack him with Gigantic Spright, who is now at 32. But if we're able to activate Gamma Burst has the effect that all level, rank, and link 2 monsters currently on the field gain 1400 attack defense until the end of this turn. So Gigantic Spright, who is at 3200 attack, gains an additional 1400, so he's up to 4600 attack. Next up we have Nimble Beaver, who although his original attack is just 400, bringing the damage up to 5000, with the addition of the 1400 from Gamma Burst, the damage right here is 64. And then last but not least, we have Toad, whose original attack is 2200, bringing the total damage of this up to 8600. But since he is also rank 2, he gains an additional 1400 off of this, bringing his personal attack up to 3600. So this is 10k damage right here. Now if your opponent has an open board, say we miraculously somehow Raigeki them or something like that, and they have no interruption, 10,000 attack, more than enough to win you the game. So that does it for combos. Let me shuffle these cards up and we'll get into a few test hands. So I'm going to give these guys a good shuffle. Pretty much most of the test hands I'm expecting might be a bit bricky just because we run so many hand traps, but as you guys already seen, all it pretty much takes is one card in order to get these combos to pop off. So we're definitely just going to try and just replicate what I've been showing you guys in the combos themselves. So give it a little shuffle, split the deck, and then our test hand. Oh, this is actually kind of crazy. Alright, honestly, I probably should have shown you guys this combo in itself, but having it right here, right now, is probably even better that we're able to show this in a test hand. So you guys are probably worried that like Angler is in our hand. That is probably really bad for us because we always want to send Angler from the deck to the graveyard or to get its effect to pop off to get out 2 beavers. But since he's in our hand along with Swap Frog, this is actually kind of insane because Angler is a water monster. Swap Frog has the effect that you can discard 1 water monster to special summon this card from your hand. Insane. So what you're able to do is you're able to activate Swap Frog, get rid of Angler to special summon Swap Frog. Angler can be sent from hand or deck to the graveyard in order to get this effect to pop off. So we have 2 triggers right here, Swap Frog and Angler. I honestly think Angler is more important to get it to pop off. So you want to chain block a little bit if your opponent has Ash. It doesn't really matter because we have the Crossout in this hand as well. So we're going to say chain 1 Angler, chain 2 Swap Frog. We're going to do from there is work backwards. Swap Frog, we're going to dump a level 2 Aqua monster from deck to the graveyard, which is going to be Mirror Mage. And then Angler, we are going to get 2 copies of Nimble Beaver to come out onto the field. This is insane, just 2 cards so far and we already got 3 bodies out in the field. But that's not all. On a new chain, Mirror Mage is going to activate and we are going to get the copy of Freezing Chains of the Ice Barrier from our deck into our hand. And then from here, I think you're probably better off going with setting up Toadally Awesome as quickly as possible. We can pretty much do this under Nibiru now. So we summoned 3 times with the Freezing Chains Ice Barrier. We're going to bring out Mirror Mage. That's the 4th summon. So we're still playing under Nibiru like this. So we're going to AA-ZEUS these 2 into our 5th summon, which is going to, of course, be Toadally Awesome. And that's the 5th summon. So if they try to Nibiru us, we're able to Toad, get rid of itself, negate the Nibiru, and then Toad we're able to recycle. But that's absolutely fine. So this is looking really good so far. And we still have 3 cards in hand. And Crossout Designator for if we get Ashed, Ghost Ogre, Drolled, or Imperm, because we still have those targets in the deck as well with the Crossout. Now if we link these 2 into Sprint and then Sprint we can dump Angler, all we're going to get is 1 extra copy of Nimble Beaver. So that's one way you can go about it. But it can also be argued just going straight for Gigantic with these 2 anyways. But honestly, I think it still might be worth it. So what I want to do is I'm going to link these 2 in order to go into a copy of Sprint. Then what we can do is we can Sprint effect, we can dump the final copy of Nimble Angler. So Nimble Angler is not once per turn. If this card is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you can special summon up to 2 level 3 or lower Nimble monsters from your deck except Angler. So Angler goes away And then we are able to special summon Nimble Beaver because it's up to 2. It doesn't have to be 2. And you might be wondering, well, this is a little bit weirder going down this way because Sprint's a good interruption. But we're not actually going to be using Spright for his interruption. We're actually going to be using him as AA-ZEUS material. So we are going to AA-ZEUS these two to go into our Gigantic Spright. And I know I said it's good to keep Gigantic in defense position in case we get lightning stormed. But his effect only doubles his attack if he's using an extra deck monster to go into him. So there's no point of putting him in defense position because his defense is only 1600. And we also have Toad ready to go if we need to negate a board wipe. So from here, what we're able to do is you're going to activate Gigantic. We are going to detach the Nimble Beaver in order to special summon a level 2 monster. So we are going to go with Blue. Going to use Blue's effect. We are going to search for our guy, which is Jet. We are going to activate Jet. Well, inherit summon Jet. We're going to special summon him out and then use his effect to get a search. Although I really do love Double Cross, I might want to try to get out one of our other Spright cards onto the field, so I might actually go with Spright Starter to search off of Jet's effect. And then from here, I'm going to use these two to go into IP Mask Arena. I'm going to activate Spright Starter, and I'm going to special summon one of the other 2 guys, either Red or Carrot. Depending on what our opponent is, we know what they're playing, we might be able to make a more informed decision. Red is great because it's just good at stopping monster effects, and that's always good. But since we're like very vulnerable to board wipes right now, I might actually go with the Carrot, special summon it out, and then take 1000 damage off of that. But if you guys want to go with Red, that's also absolutely fine, no problem at all. Just from a personal thing, I'm going to go with Carrot. This is very good for us because we still have 2 interruptions in our hand as well. We have a Crossout Designator, which we might set, might as well, because you never know if you're passing over to your opponent and we're holding on to an Imperm. They might try to Imperm IP Mask Arena right away, but we have to Crossout for it. So let's go through this scenario right now. We're going to then pass turn to our opponent. Their opponent's going to go into draw phase and then standby phase. During standby phase, I'm going to activate Toadally Awesome. I'm going to detach Mirror Mage of the ice barrier. In order to get Toad's effect, we are going to special summon a frog, which will be Swap Frog. You can activate Swap Frog's effect then if you guys want to dump your final Swap Frog, that's fine. There's really no point in doing it. It really doesn't matter, but if you think you're going to he's going to be a bit bricky if you draw into him, then might as well just get rid of him. If Ronin Totem was legal, and if we're able to dump Ronin Totem, definitely dump Ronin Totem. That'll be a lot better. Then if we're going into the main phase, what we're pretty much looking down is we have IP Mask Arena that we're able to use IP and Swap Frog in order to go into SP Little Knight. So that's crazy in itself, because since we lost the Swap Frog, it doesn't matter, it doesn't turn off Toad. Toad can get rid of itself, and then you can activate Toad effect to either get Swap Frog to your hand, or if you want to shuffle back to Toad, that's fine. But honestly, since we get rid of all of our frogs in the deck, you might as well get the level 2 and just leave Toad in there. We also have a spell negate by tributing one of our other guys, which is fine. 2 more interruptions, crossed out. That was a great test hand to show off. Now, if the rest of the test hands can be as good as that one, fantastic. So maybe we might just do like another 1 or 2, but we'll just see what we get. We're going to split the deck. We'll see what we get. Smashers, Swap, Starter, Droll. All right, not the worst. Not the worst and not the best. I'll show you some stuff with this. Honestly, Swap Frog is absolutely insane. Swap Frog on itself is a 1-card combo into Toad, and I'll show you that right now. Let's just ignore the Drolls and let's ignore the Smashers. We're going first in this. I'm going to be pretty much doing one of the combos that I already showed you with Starter, so that's fine, no problem at all. But I'm also going to do a mini combo right now. I'm going to show how Swap Frog is a 1-card combo to go into Toad. Normal summon swap effect. We are going to dump the Mirror Mage into the graveyard, and the Mirror Mage effect, we are going to get Freezing Chains of the Ice Barrier. Activate Freezing Chains, we're going to bring out Mirror Mage, and then right there, and then we're going to rank into Toad. We're completely protecting ourselves from the Beaver and whatever else kind of shenanigans our opponent controlled us, and we can properly play the deck now. Let's go with Starter. Starter effect, we are going to go for the classic Spright Blue, and we're going to take 1100 damage off of that. Blue effect, we're going to add Spright Jet to our hand. Inherit summon Spright Jet, since we control both Blue and Toad, and then we can use Jet's effect. We can get any of our stuff. Let's go on the basis that we are going first, so there's no point going for Gamma Burst. And we already used Starter, so there's no point going for another Starter. Honestly, I'm going to go with my personal favorite, which is going to be Double Cross. And again, we already have Smashers in our hand, so it doesn't matter. Going with Double Cross. Link these two into a copy of Sprint. Sprint effect, since he hit the field, we are going to dump a copy of Nimble Angler. Nimble Angler effect, we're going to get 2 copies of Beaver, and this stuff should pretty much become second nature to you guys from here. Going to use Nimble Beaver, we're going to AA-ZEUS into our copy of Gigantic Spright. And we're going to be putting him in defense position because, again, Lightning Storm, and we're not using a link to go into him. So we're going to use Gigantic. We are going to make sure it goes off again. Detach Beaver to special summon a monster. Now, since we already used Swap Frog and Blue and Jet and all that kind of stuff, I'm actually going to go for Red. I'm going to bring out Red just for that, just because I want to have a little bit more protection of monster negates. If you want to go for Carrot, that's absolutely fine, but honestly, most of the time I would go for Red if I wasn't so vulnerable to board wipes. Since Gigantic is in defense, I feel a little bit safer, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to have Red face up. I'm going to set my copy of Double Cross, set my copy of Smashers. I'm going to pass turn to my opponent. Opponent's going to go into draw phase and then standby phase. I'm going to use Toad's effect. I'm going to detach Mirror Mage, and I'm going to special summon Swap Frog. I'm going to Swap Frog effect to dump the final frog, and then this is pretty much all what our opponent has to deal with. So not only do we have Droll and Lockbird, which is very, very crippling to our opponent, we have a bounce with Sprint that we're able to, say, detach Gigantic's material in order to bounce. We have an Omni Negate with Toad, and we're able to get rid of Toad or swap itself. And we also have Double Cross and Smashers in the back row. This is a very, very good test hand. We'll probably just do one more to round it out. All right, let's see what we can do. This might be the last test hand. Unless we brick, we might try one more. If we can get one more good test hand, then I'll probably end the video there. Let's split the deck and we'll see what we get. Smashers, Droll, Angler, Double Cross. Okay. Yeah, this is terrible. Not the best at all. Honestly, all we have is really Droll and Ghost Ogre. I wouldn't really be setting these two in the back row in case they harpies us. We don't want to waste those materials. If we somehow survive, we draw. Yeah, Nimble Beaver is a good way to kind of like go into your stuff, but yeah, this is an absolute brick of a test hand. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way the game is. We'll try one more. All right, one more test hand. We were doing so well. Let's just see what we got. We're going to split the deck. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, okay. This is very, very good. Honestly, this is quite overwhelming with the amount of stuff we can do, so I'm honestly not too sure even where to start. Well, I'm definitely going to start by normal summoning Nimble Beaver, and then we are going to activate that effect. We are going to special summon a copy of Angler. We are going to link 2 into copy of Sprint. We are going to Sprint effect. We are going to dump an extra Angler. Wants to make an appearance. Yep, Angler, and then that allows us to special summon 2 copies of Beaver, which is great. Let's AA-ZEUS these two and go into Gigantic. Then we're going to use Gigantic's effect, make sure it pops off. We are going to send the Beaver, and we are going to special summon, gotta be Swap Frog effect, dump the Mirror Mage. We are going to add Freezing Chains, activate Freezing Chains, bring out Mirror Mage, exceed these two, go into our Toad, and then from here we still have 2 extenders, which is pretty crazy. So let's activate Spright Blue. Since we control a rank 2 monster in the form of Gigantic and Toad, we can just special summon Spright Blue off of his own effect, and we are going to use his effect to search for a monster. Let's again go with the classic combo. We are going to get Jet. We are going to special summon Jet off of his own effect, and then we are going to use Jet. We are going to add my personal favorite, Double Cross. We're going to add that to our hand. If you want to go for number 65 Djinn, that's fine. It's a monster negate, but considering we have Imperm, I'm not too worried about monster negates. What I instead want to go for is I'm going to link away these two and go into the copy of IP Masquerena. We can put it there because Sprint is pointing down in that direction. We are then going to activate Spright Starter. We are going to bring out either Red or Carrot, depending on which one you find better. I personally think Red might be a little bit better, so I'm going to go with Red, and I'm going to take 1200 damage off of Starter because of that. We are going to set Double Cross, set Called By, and set Imperm. We're going to pass it over to our opponent. Our opponent's going to go into draw phase. Their standby phase, we're going to activate Toad, detach a material in order to bring out a frog. Then use Frog's effect. You want to dump another frog. That's no problem at all. This is insane. We have a bounce, a monster negate, a way to go into these two, interruption to go for SP Little Knight. We have an Omni negate. We have Double Cross, Called By, and Imperm. This is a fantastic board. So that about does it for the combo guide and test hands. I'm really happy with the way this deck turned out. I have a lot of fun when I'm playing Spright. If you guys want to check out the actual full deck list, I might leave it in the description, but also definitely check out the deck profile on the channel as well. If you guys even want to build this deck, we have affiliate links in the description as well, so you guys can directly support the channel by using those affiliate links to buy cards to build your deck. If there's any combos you feel like I missed, definitely let me know about them. I'm still exploring Sprights myself, so I know that there's a few other ways that you can unlock its full potential, and I'm really excited to learn more. But other than that, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you guys want to see the videos early, please consider becoming a member. Other than that, there's not much left to say, except I recommend you guys try this deck out. Let me know how you get on by telling me your experience in the description. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.